I'd like to call to order the Perkins Public Library Trust meeting for October 5th at 6:06 p.m. Would you please do roll call?
Absolutely. So we got Brian Huckabee,
Yep.
Valerie Hill,
Yes.
Linda Barta,
Yes?
Charlotte Perrick,
Yes.
and Melissa Mills.
Yes.
We also have Bob Ernst.
Thank you. Number 2, consideration and action on consent agenda. A, approval of minutes from September 7th, 2023 regular meeting, and B, approval of financial records. There were a few corrections, but those have been circled and to be approved.
I wasn't there, I moved to approve them.
There were only 3 of us here, Charlotte.
My second. All right, real quick, and who made the motion? Charlotte. All right, so Charlotte.
Yes.
All right, and Valerie,
Yes.
Brian,
Yep.
Linda,
Yes.
and Melissa. Yes.
Number 3, consideration of items removed from consent agenda. Nothing was removed. Item 4, public appearance, petitions, communications, personal appearances. We do not have anyone else here today, so we'll move on to number 5. Consideration, discussion, and possible action to approve purchase order number 2309028 in the amount of $800 to Tulsa Facility Maintenance and Remodeling for our library signage.
I'm making a motion to approve that PO.
A second?
All right, Valerie? Yes. Melissa?
Yes.
Brian?
Yep.
Linda?
Yes.
And Charlotte?
Yes.
All right. Number 6, consideration and discussion and possible action to approve purchase order number 2309029 in the amount of $3,060 to Rebel Sign Company for painting services behind library signage. I do have a discussion on that one.
Well, that's worded wrong too, because that's not painting.
Oh, it's not?
It's actual signage.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So was the $800 for the painting?
Yes, that was the painting one.
Okay. There are some spots that have come off down there that I don't know if after the other guy went to put it up. that
Yeah, I
they
think when they
offered.
drilled into the fascia,
Okay,
some of that spalled off, so we'll touch that up.
okay, very good.
I will go in and refix part of that too, where it's painting services behind the library signage, because that goes up behind remodeling for library signage.
Yeah,
So
so it's
I will move that phrase up,
opposite.
and then, yeah, switch this over to the actual sign.
Gotcha.
We're gonna need these quotes, Brian, to say Perkins Library Trust instead of Firebrand too. As we're going through Firebrand, I don't know how that's being done.
We're not going through Firebrand. Most of them are people that know me as Firebrand. So
Yeah.
it comes,
If you can just have them reflect what it's for our auditor.
All right, do I go first?
I make a motion to approve the purchase order. To Rebel Sign.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Charlotte?
All right, Valerie?
Yes.
Charlotte?
Yes.
Brian?
yep.
Linda?
Yes.
And Melissa? Yes.
All right, item number 7, consideration, discussion, possible action to approve purchase order number 2309038 in the amount of $4,500 to LDS Building Specialties LLC for the security door on the western wall of the new library building.
And this is approving the PO so that we can order it? Or has it been ordered?
POs, if you don't want these.
This is approving the PO so we can pay upon completion.
Pay for the door.
I make a motion to approve that PO.
Valerie's first. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Melissa?
All right, Valerie,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Brian,
Yep.
Linda,
Yes.
and Charlotte.
Yes.
All right, item number 8, consideration and discussion regarding update from Brian Huckabee on the progress of the new library project.
Well, the signage is up, the back panels are painted, the concrete demo is basically done. It isn't all out of the hole yet, but it's all busted up. So we'll get that pushed out. I think tomorrow we'll grade that area to drain too. So I need to holler at Zach and Grider, make sure they both know we got a pile of stuff for them.
Gotcha.
So that's actual progress.
And the removal of that was so that we can run the plumbing lines. And so, does the plumbing have to be done after the security door, or is that something that we can?
Now, as soon as the concrete's out of the way and we get it graded and clean, we can start all utility work.
Oh, good.
So is that something that we need to discuss or approve or do anything about? Or is that just something that is gonna just start happening?
That's in the next, I guess the next item, we talk about next steps.
The actions towards.
It's actual progress, I mean, the painting, the signage, and the concrete demo is kind of the only progress that's been done.
All right. Number 9, consideration, discussion, and possible action regarding the next steps of the new library renovations.
Yeah, the next step then is I'll talk to Rudy at Cimarron Mechanical. And I guess we'll lay out that interior plumbing and see if we can find somebody to do some pretty saw cutting inside and get Rudy to make a mess out there in the alley and tie in new sewer line, water line. And I guess at this point in time too, we gotta decide if we want to run a new gas line. If we're gonna have gas service in the building or go all electric,
Gotcha.
which it's easy enough to just run a single line from the meter in the alley to the building, and then we have that option should we decide to do it.
We already have a meter?
Well, there's the old meter stand out there in the alley that's been disconnected. There's no meter there.
Would we have to pay for a tap on any of that?
No, I think they would. I think these days ONG likes to set meters at the building instead of out there in space like they used to where people run over them.
Yeah.
So,
What about getting a complete set of plans, like we talked about? Has that been talked about with anybody else?
no, not since I talked to you about it.
I think it'll be on the next agenda item, but
Well, yeah.
depending on how we want to go, I guess we need to be.
Well, I guess,
Because we did an agenda item a while back to solicit, because you communicated with me a little bit, to solicit a proposal from.
yeah, we did that. Like I told you, I hit dead ends with everybody I contacted on it. Designers Inc. is not a licensed architect. And the other place up there, I don't even remember the name of them, never called me back.
Looks like an empty office. It looks like a
Yeah, it's,
Stillwater office, so that
Well, what about the place you work at?
we would answer a request for proposal, I think. I don't know what the,
well, like I said,
What questions would be
the
there?
last go-around, we were gonna spend $11,000 that we approved to pay the other architect. And I'm pretty sure, I mean, I guess you can bounce it around in your office and see what they would charge. I mean, we basically have developed a set of plans. We just need a licensed architect, put their name on it and add a few details.
And sign the contract with the attorney and with the city.
Not charge us $20,000 to do so,
Right.
so.
I just don't understand why the first architect didn't stamp. Didn't,
Well, he did. We have a design review from him based on that modified floor plan that he did. So we have a licensed architect's stamp on design review. And we already had a structural engineer sign off on the building, so technically we don't have to have anything beyond that. I think we all agree it'd be nice to have a full set of plans, and it makes my life easier to communicate with subs going forward. But, you know, you brought up bid splitting, and now I'm confused as hell because the attorney is throwing the same terminology at me.
Well, that's because people go to prison over bid splitting. I don't think there's a bid splitting issue now.
Well, but I need a clear answer before I waste my time trying to get multiple quotes for individual scopes of work and then be accused of bid splitting.
I don't think anybody's accused anybody of bid splitting.
Well, I'm not.
But I think what you run
I'm
into,
confused because I don't have a clear answer on whether we can proceed like we've been doing.
it depends on how the project is looked at and how the project, bid splitting is if I want to build a building and or if I want to do something and it costs $150,000. The Competitive Bidding Act governs public trusts on how they spend money. The Competitive Bidding Act says from zero, on a project, that's the big key. What is the project? So on any project, from $0 to $10,000, you can negotiate with a contractor to do whatever that project is. From $10,000 to $100,000, you are to obtain quotes, preferably 3, as many as you can, to get the best deal for the money. $100,000 and over, you have to follow the Competitive Bidding Act procedures, which is advertise, do, bid packet, this is our project, and you take sealed bids that are opened at a meeting and then they're reviewed. So if you go out and I want to have this project for $150,000 to redo this room, and I decide, man, I really don't want to competitively bid this, so I make the decision, well, I'm going to hire Brian's company to do half of it and her company to do the other half, and I'm going to call it two $75,000 projects, then I split the bid.
But that's going to like a GC. I guess that's where we need to figure out if that project in its entirety is viewed as a project, or if the masonry work on the exterior of the building can be viewed as a project, because that's how we're approaching it.
I think it can be, and that's why I don't think it's not viewed as, nobody thinks anybody's splitting bids, but it can get really technical on whether or not, the other thing you have to have basically, I think, is an intent to do, you know what I mean? And that's obviously not here.
And I told you, if we had the money in the bank, I'm all for hire a GC and let them go do it.
Well, that's why.
My life gets easier.
Exactly.
But, I mean, we made a conscious decision months and months and years ago to actively manage the project here and take a scope of work at a time, bid it out, and take advantage of contacts and resources and donated services like Cimarron Mechanical to save money and save overhead and profit from a GC. So we're still competitively bidding it.
Well,
A scope at a time, but
So the point of this is to protect taxpayer dollars, right? So that taxpayers know that we're getting competitive bids, right?
Well, that's
And
probably-
we're not blowing money, because we just hired someone, who was their buddy, and you want to inflate the whatever, right? That's the point of this.
that would be the spirit.
That would be the spirit. So then I think we're well within that spirit in the sense that.
we're in that, but I'd still like, we had this discussion, I'd still like the attorneys.
I think I just gave it to you. It's a case-by-case deal, and competitive bidding is a legal term. And it's very specific in the law, and I can send the law to everybody, how competitive bidding works. It says you have to post, you have to advertise for so many days. The governing body has to approve going out for bid. Then you advertise the bids, and then they got 30 days to submit the bids. They have to submit the bids by a certain date and time in a sealed envelope marked whatever, just like you do.
But that's over the 100,000 threshold.
Right.
I'm saying that because she
Yeah.
says bidding.
Okay, yeah.
There's bidding and there's quotes.
Quotes,
So when you're,
okay.
so nobody thinks anybody's necessarily doing anything wrong, but where I was going with this is I think there's a fork in the road that the library trust may want to decide if we want to take or not. Because I've done some talking to people and I've had some people in the community talk to me, and if the project, if everybody wants to stick with the fundraising and doing a little bit at a time, I think that can be done as long as we are very careful to identify this phase of the project. You know, this is a phase of the overall project. Then I don't think anybody can come back, you know, and say, well, we didn't bid split because we did phase it out because we didn't have the money to do the whole project. If we do something to bring the money in quickly and you get a loan, you're going to need construction documents and a GC or they're not going to loan you the money. So it's however.
Yeah, I'm still for that. I'm not I mean, we had conversations
Yeah,
like
we
that.
talked about it.
I'm all for raising money, have it in the bank, and get this thing done. I think we're all tired of talking about getting the building
Exactly.
taken care of.
We would like to see it
But
completed.
at the same time, I have no problem still donating my personal.
I agree.
my
Yeah, that's fine.
personal
I think
time To get it done.
the bid splitting deal, what you have to be careful of is the intent on going around the law. And if the stages or the phases are defined, I don't think there's going to be an issue. And we can run those phases by the attorney. The other, and I don't know how far off track we're getting, but the other thing that really complicates matters is how this trust indenture was written. I don't know why whoever was involved at the beginning didn't want city input, but it specifically leaves me out. It specifically puts all of the burden of the financial and the management on you. I've never seen a trust indenture written like that. I'm hired, and it says in my contract, to manage the city and the trusts. I can't manage this one legally by the trust indenture. So I'm kind of like Brian, trying to tiptoe around. We're all trying to tiptoe around.
So
Lawyer.
are you just like an advisor?
Well, I think right now, because if the Public Works Authority Trust wants to do something, or we find out we need to, do whatever, we need to replace $50,000 in something, I get the quotes, I bring them and I package it up and it all goes to the trust members, and then I put it on the agenda, and say, basically what Brian's been doing is my job
Dividing it
for
up.
the other trusts.
Dividing it up.
Yeah.
So,
Since all of this stuff is put on you guys as trust members and you don't do it all the time, you don't understand, that's what's so difficult. Because I can be talking in legal terms or like trust-related terms, and it doesn't necessarily translate to normal English.
so is that something, I mean, if we, as a trust, decided that we don't like that setup and wanted to change something in that founding document, is that something that we could change, or is it like we're stuck with the way it was
We're pretty well
done?
stuck with it. It's super involved.
It's messy.
It's goofy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's registered with the Secretary of State and blah, blah, blah.
So another question is, you mentioned getting a loan, but I feel like that my understanding was that the city may not want us to get a loan and be stuck with those payments, but am I misunderstanding that, or
Well,
is that?
You want to tell them what you were,
Let's move on to the next agenda.
Oh, okay.
You guys are done with,
well, let me.
or there might be something he wants to talk
Yeah,
about.
let me finish that then.
Okay.
So the next steps, and we've talked about it a few times, and I brought pricing. If we decide to proceed, I'll get a few more prices, and then we can decide. In the meantime, if the attorney agrees that we're still within.
If you have a phase, I mean, I would say for this phase, whatever you're talking, for the plumbing phase of the project, here's quotes, and if you can get those quotes to her a couple weeks before the meeting, and then, because there should be some communication going on before the meeting to make sure we get everything that we want
But
time enough.
if we're phasing it though, then we will have a phase somewhere, then I think that's where we look like we're bid splitting. Because then we will have phases that might get over 100,000, or then we are intentionally trying to keep a phase under 100,000.
Well-
But those phases then have multiple items of work. And right now, we're doing individual
The
items,
Competitive Bidding Act
and we're still
was,
bidding it.
was born to keep the government in check. So it's very, very restrictive.
Well, I understand that. All I'm saying is, all we are doing is keeping a GC out of the equation to raise prices.
Well, and if you,
We're still doing the job of GC, I'm getting multiple quotes.
Right.
For each item of work, and bring it down here and we talk about it.
well, there's no reason we couldn't phase a project, and if we have a phase that's gonna be over, if you get a quote and they say this phase is 125,000, then we back up and we know we have to competitively bid that phase.
What did we bid before, the roofing? What was that? We've had one.
Probably the trust.
Trusses.
I think that was probably a public item. I think the roof and the truss repair, all that was a little for my time.
It was before I was here.
But since then, we've been doing quotes for masonry repair. I guess windows was still under the 50,000 threshold, but we had.
I don't think anything's been done wrong.
Yeah.
There's been nothing
And that
wrong.
But I still just get nervous sitting up here, and
Yeah.
especially when the attorney comments on it and says you gotta be careful. I'm like, well, tell us.
We
I
are.
mean, I don't wanna,
You are very careful.
I don't wanna go too far the wrong direction.
No, I've had those conversations with the attorney, and nobody thinks there's been, it's just wanting everybody to remain cognizant of, this isn't like, we can't do these things like we would do them in the normal world if it was just a private business and I wanted you to build a barn for me, and we go back and forth and come up with the best deal. And the reason we can't is because people in government have lied, cheated, and stole, so they made these rules. And we just have to,
And I understand
Pay
that. But if we bid this out as an entire project, we're including maybe 3 general contractors in that process. And once we award it, we don't know how many people they bid it to and whether they're from this town or anybody knows them.
That's true.
Or whether they are donating part of their services to the
That's true.
project. So we're not, the only people we're cutting out are GCs like myself.
true.
And
So
if we had, I mean, if we took it to a contractor today and asked them to get bids, they would get bids, they would come in, and then we would fundraise for 7 years, and then that would,
Well,
that wouldn't be the cost anymore.
Well, we'll get to this next deal. Let me finish the few
Yeah,
things in here.
let's get on here.
I told you I'd bring quotes back. So masonry, I have 2 quotes on masonry. That's the wainscot and brick columns on the north wall. One of them is $15,750 that includes everything except the brick material itself. And I have one that's $23,475 that is turnkey with brick and everything included. So those are both close to the budget numbers we had working with. And on EFS, I have a contractor out of Tulsa who's verbally given me a quote of $32,000, which is about what we had in the budget. And I have another one that gave me a quote of $20,700, but his math is wrong, and I even met him over there. He doesn't have his footage right, because I know what his square foot cost is.
Right.
His footage is wonky. But the problem I have with that, and I talked to a sandblaster again today who stopped to look at it, that mural on the north wall screws up our adhesion of EFS to that surface. Then it turns into fully mechanically fastened, and it's that clay tile stuff. You know, I was hoping to have a combination of adhesive and a little bit of fasteners as backup. So the quote I got out of one sandblaster is $5,200 to sandblast that whole paint off, so that we have a clean enough surface we could adhere styrofoam to it.
And would that hurt the wall at all? I mean, would there be wall left?
I was gonna
There would be
say,
wall left. I mean, he'd
And
get
do it
like.
carefully enough that-
90%. I'm sure some of the paint's still stuck well enough, it's not gonna come off that easily, but you can go over there and pick pieces and pull chunks off that big. So there's a lot of paint that needs to come off if we're doing that system. So I'm still trying to figure out, one of the EFS guys volunteered to come over and do a little test.
Check it.
And we'll drill some holes and put some fasteners and see how long that takes, how well it holds,
Makes the wall rumble.
and then how much more that costs. Maybe the EFS then cost an extra $3,000, but then we're not spending $5,200 to sandblast it.
Right.
So,
That'll be a trade-off at that point,
yeah.
figuring out which is to what to go with.
And that back wall, that wood at the top still needs replaced. It's kind of an individual item on its own that we haven't really nitpicked as a board, but that's something that's gonna cost a couple of grand to pull all that crap off and put it back together in a manner that will accept the new EFS. And I've even stood back there and had the thought of just painting that back wall. Especially the CMU part of it that's still intact and sound, and we save money. It's like $8.50 a square foot to put EFS on. I can paint it a whole lot cheaper than that, so. So there's prices on masonry, EFS, and if we decide, I'll get a couple more prices, review. Well, and if I get that, then get it to you early enough, we can get it on the agenda and let the attorney look at it and make sure we're cool to review that stuff next time and potentially pull the trigger and get that part of the work done. So, and then other next steps then, like we talked about, utilities on the back and framing material, which is an idea we've floated in the past. Getting SBC or somebody, get a couple of quotes, and I'm pretty sure Perkins Lumber or SBC or both will give us stuff at cost or discounted rate or something. And get a truckload of lumber.
Does it need to be metal studs?
Not according to the code review.
So Linda and I kind of had this idea at the same time about, I wonder if Meridian, Meridian has the framing.
I talked to
talked to
Bob.
Zach.
Eyeballs.
Yeah, I saw him a couple months ago and pitched the idea about,
What's he?
I think it's a little too far out for them, and they, I think, got enough other stuff going. So,
We knew they were working on a house, we had talked about that.
but some of this may be a moot point after Bob explains what he's thinking about doing. I decide to forego some of these steps and do it all one shot. So,
So is there any action we need to take regarding these things tonight?
No, there's
Well,
no
as I said,
action on that.
Yeah, there's no action on that
is
agenda.
this possible?
For 9 it does.
Oh, it does? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was looking at the.
That's why I asked, sorry.
Well, then, the possible action then would be me contacting Cimarron Mechanical, their tentative plans.
And then maybe bringing the quotes for the plumbing to the next meeting.
On number 8 or 9.
Well, and that's gonna be, Bob, that's one of those deals that it's clearly under 10,000 because it's gonna be essentially free. 'Cause Rudy said he'll
Well, I
do,
think, I'll find out. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
he said he'll do all the service if we just buy fixtures, but we're not gonna buy fixtures until later. All we're doing is getting service to the building, so. But I'll talk to him and
Okay.
circle back. So I'm done with that item, Linda.
Okay. All right, any other discussion on that? All right, number 10, consideration and discussion regarding fundraising ideas.
All right, well, I'm gonna mess you up too. Did we take action on 9?
No.
Okay. All right, go for it, sorry.
No, you are fine.
So I had a conversation with with Robert Sasser, and we were talking about city and different things to do, and this wouldn't necessarily directly involve the library trust. I mean, it will kind of, but it's more of a city deal. But our sales tax in Perkins is about a half cent lower than Stillwater and Cushing. So if we were to go to the voters, if the city commission would approve, and I think they probably would, I can't speak for them, but I think they would. If we were to go to the voters with a sales tax proposition to do like a 1/4 cent sales tax for the library, to benefit the library, and we could write the language, I wrote it for the public safety sales tax. It could be written to include service of debt, maintenance, operational library equipment, however it needed to be worded. Roughly, very roughly, I have a financial advisor working on specific numbers, but I think it would bring in around $80,000 a year. So even if we sunsetted, and the total picture is to do a 1/4 cent for library and a 1/4 cent for park and rec as two different votes. They have to be a vote of the people. But if we did that and we said, we want to do park improvements for the kids and we want to do library improvements for the kids, it's about investing, and I think we could come up with a pretty catchy way to push it. So if you do a 10-year sales tax, you're pretty much looking at $800,000 in revenue. These are very rough numbers. But you could very easily, with a complete set of plans, or maybe not a complete set of plans, maybe a construction-ready set of plans, go to somebody like, you could go to a bank or you could go to USDA.
I was gonna say, do they still have a low interest one?
3.624 for the last quarter. The issue with the loan last time, Melissa, that came up is it was a 40-year note. So it was whatever the amount was at 40 years, which is might exceed the life of the building, maybe. So, but if we needed 5 or 6, and if you competitively bid it, you add 20 or 30% right off the top, because they're just gonna add, because it's a pain in the butt to competitively bid, and they have to be licensed, bonds and all that stuff. But if we think it could be done for, $600,000, we could service the debt. My thought is to service the debt. If the tax passes, work on a loan, service the debt, because you have, it's restricted money. There's no, it's very secure for the loan. And then the leftover would be, it'd have to go to the library in some,
Operational.
or into an account where they have money left over to do programming, books, whatever. But it would be a big boost. The public safety sales tax has brought in over $1 million.
What were you talking timeline on this?
If
it goes?
The soonest we could put it before a vote of the people would be February. That would require the city commission approving a resolution in November to put it before the voters. So that's fast, but it's doable and I work with a financial advisor and a bond counsel attorney to make sure everything's written right and everything's done right and it's legal. And then it would be up to everybody involved with the library to campaign and talk to people and try to get people out to vote for it. Now, sometimes new taxes aren't real popular, but
I think something like that, I think part of that campaign needs to be, a lot of those tax dollars are people driving through town stopping to get gas.
It is.
It's not me and you.
It's not me and you every time.
As much as it is
Exactly.
commuters,
Right.
so. Well,
and the reason we were talking about it is there are some people that want to donate money, but they're not going to donate money if it's not a viable project that they know is going to be completed pretty quick.
So that's a good reason to have plans.
That's
To
why,
get plans, gotcha.
Yeah, that's what, and that,
And if we go that route, I definitely advocate dropping back and spend some money and do that, but if we're still working on a limited budget, limping forward, I hate to waste 20 grand to say we got some pretty pictures when, we can build off what we have.
So what's the order that we would have to do this in? Would we have to get the complete set of plans before the sales tax passes?
no, not necessarily,
Or could we?
not necessarily.
Could we kind of say like, well, let's see if it passes, and then if it passes, then we do.
So I'm guessing, but before we officially get it out to a vote, you'd already have input from, is there any way to get USDA or somebody to comment and say, we will
I think I could have,
fund this?
we could have preliminary conversations with them. I don't see there's any reason in the world any bank wouldn't fund it because it's sales tax money. I mean, it's not like,
Yeah.
we're gonna get fired and lose our job and not have any money in the bank. It's coming in, and it's restricted by law, and
To go to that.
our auditors, go over it all the time, constantly, and we
is-
would pledge, just like when they built Redbud Assisted Living.
Right.
They pledged sales tax dollars, that's how they got it funded. Nobody would fund it. And then but they actually pledged our general revenue, which was, anyway, that's why it got funded, because it's a legal binding document, and if Redbud failed, then we had to give all our sales tax money to the bank.
Well, is there anything we need to do?
I think talk to city commissioners, talk to the mayor about why you think this would be a good idea. It's up to them. See, and the library trust can't collect sales tax. The city collects sales tax.
Right.
So it has to be a city function, so that kind of gets everything a little messier. But since it's the same thing with the capital improvement sales tax that the library is entitled to, it goes through the city, and then, because the library is also part of the general fund.
But then it gets a little weird too. It's a city building, but we're leasing the building.
Yeah, but the reason is the city,
City entity.
a city cannot take on debt legally. A trust can take on debt. So they made this law sometime that said, governments can't take on debt because they shouldn't have to. And they said, okay, then we'll create these public trusts.
The feds.
Function of the government.
Just the feds.
The federal government knows how to deal with that. Yeah.
So the trust can take on debt. So the loan would be in the trust name with this restricted money.
That would come from the city based on that.
It'd come through the
order
just
sales
through,
tax.
And the city couldn't cut ties with us and leave us.
That's
on
right.
drag.
No, it's all, it's actually very difficult to dissolve a trust.
So if it came down to that, then we decided, I guess we'd still have the option on how to administer that project. If we want to bid it out as an entire job, or
Yeah, I just
because again,
think
we could still save $100 grand off the top if we do it in-house.
possibly, yeah, you could save money, but
Which I'm riding the fence here. I mean,
it depends on how much you value your time.
well, yeah, selfishly, I want to be involved and make sure it's done right, but also selfishly, I'd rather let somebody else just go do it.
Well, there's no reason you
So-
can't be involved watching.
So,
I think it would be easier on everybody and a lot cleaner if this were to be approved by the commission's the first step to get it on the ballot, and then passed, and then the loan won't be a problem. There's no reason you couldn't get a loan.
Right.
And then have, bid it out and just have somebody like Brian be the liaison with the contractors.
So
Do
does the city council, do they even have to agree with it
They have to agree
to put it?
to put it on the ballot.
To put on a ballot for the February,
They have to say,
in November.
yeah.
So do we need it written up, like this is exactly the wording we want on the ballot?
You don't have to do that.
We don't have to do that.
We would like to just propose that this be done.
so we need to.
It's gonna be proposed, I'm gonna propose.
Okay, that's what I was waiting on. Thank you.
As long as everybody agrees, because I'm not gonna have the strength to do it myself. I'm gonna need people, we're gonna have to show unity in the, you know, to the community, and this is why we're doing this. And we've been trying, we've raised a lot of, we have raised a lot of money, you guys have. But it's difficult to get grants and things for a library when you already have a library, and we're learning that.
I'm all on board with this idea that thing we have to consider in the meantime, if that doesn't happen till February, do we cool our heels for a little bit? Or-
No, we finish this stuff
think
we're
we
working
finished-
on.
I think we keep working on the things that we've got availability to,
Yeah, I don't see any reason to stop.
because we've got money to spend.
I'm for the idea too. I think everybody would love to get it done all at once versus nickel and dime.
Yeah.
And I think if you do a loan, back to what you were saying is about a GC, if you jump into a loan with a federal entity, they're gonna want GCs and bonds
Yeah.
and
Oh,
insurance.
yes, definitely.
Those boxes checked. And that's gonna cost more money than having you guys do it, but it's the difference in however long it's gonna take
It does.
versus, you know, signing the contract and having it done in a year, or whatever, you know, whatever the time frame is.
Yeah. Well, we would just have, if we continue with this, we would just have, try to have a clear line in the sand before we put that out to bid, so we're not in the middle of doing something. So it's, here's the building, here's the plan.
Well, and realistically, if you get stuff, you bring stuff for the next meeting, it's still gonna take, I mean, that's November.
And it wouldn't be voted on till February.
Weather,
Yeah.
EFS, and, you know, we might be at a natural stopping point. If, you know, depending on what happens at the vote. I don't know what the people will say. I don't know why they would say no, because it's not like our tax. And I thought, and you don't necessarily have to put a time frame on it. You could do a perpetual tax, but I wondered if it would be, this was just me thinking, would it be easier to swallow if it was for 10 years, and then we tell people we're gonna come back in 10 years,
That's what I do.
kind of like
And
Oklahoma
then
City
reevaluate,
does,
yes.
and say, maybe there's
Another project.
this over here.
Thing.
And,
Yeah, keep the taxes, but find a different.
yeah, and then, you know, maybe we've identified something else at that time that we could do, but
So if we run into Carla walking down the street, we need to tell her or
say, hey, we'd like to see a sales tax put on the ballot. And, I think they'll know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Tell her I've got 25 pennies I'd like to cut into fourths.
But I think it would raise money, and I don't know. And the work that's been done to now is not for nothing, because, you know, just the signage, the windows, I mean, the stuff.
Right.
Start off when Allison first started gutting the building, all that getting up till now has made it a really viable and visible project.
Amen.
It seems like it would be easier
Yes.
to say, hey, we, you know, instead of taking 5 more years or 10 more years or whatever, if we do this, we can get a loan, bid it out in 90 days, and be hammering away. And then,
We had a good turnout Saturday down there. People really had a buzz, and
a lot of the people, we're probably getting way off track. If the attorney's watching, I'll get in trouble, but a lot of the people, some of the people that are associated with the library, like are on this board, and are older people that vote. Because a lot of the younger people don't vote. That'll be. a
Younger
big
people
thing.
have
but
kids.
if you put Park and Rec with it, you might get it there.
Right, and you got, but that's gonna be the deal, getting them out to vote.
Gotcha.
We gotta get you out to vote. Because some people say, well, I think it's a great idea. Well, and like Linda, can't vote for
I
it.
can't, because I live out of town.
But,
Oh,
But my mama lives in town.
yeah, see, but I mean,
I'll pick her up and take her.
but you know, if we get to that, then we can all, or I can send emails out and come up with ideas on how to campaign and.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
that's a good fundraiser, and
Yeah.
But we
I love
should
the idea of not
already
having
have
to-
EFS and everything on there, because we've got the money for it.
Sure.
Well, it'd be nice to get past that point in time where we have a new building that is being utilized, and then we can come down here and still find $50,000 grants to buy new shelving.
Shelving.
New furniture.
Well, see, that's the stuff that whatever excess money is left could be used for. I mean, we can write that in there.
We still have parking lot that is not in our.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically, put everything in there.
Dealt with.
My way of thinking, when I did the public safety sales tax, or when we did, we put pretty broad, but we left salaries out. Because people don't want to hear that you're gonna pay people with this money, even though it's a necessity, and we all know that. But we say it's gonna go for, equipment, maintenance, operations, no salaries. Nobody's getting a big raise. But, because that's how people think. And that's because people have been crooked in different areas. of the
Well,
country.
I'm all for it, so
Thank you.
I know there's no action there, but, so I'll make
I just wanted to
an
make sure.
unofficial motion that we
I just wanted to make sure you guys would be interested in moving forward, because also,
I think that's exciting.
I've kind of been working behind the scenes, and it wasn't my idea, but I think it's a great idea that Robert had.
Well, good. Well, I'll be sure to let him know too.
Who all is on the city council right now?
Carla Cummings, I need to, Sarah Rebello,
Uh-huh,
Sarah Dickerson,
uh-huh.
Jason Cox, and the mayor.
Okay.
That was Carla Cummings.
Yep. Did I say that?
Yeah.
Well, you have to mention her twice.
Who's the second Sarah?
Dickerson, Sarah Dickerson, Sarah Rebello, Jason Cox, the mayor, and that's it. 5. That is 5, right?
Well,
Just
you
got
counted
four.
Carla twice.
Carla, Sarah, Jason.
Yeah.
Carla, Sarah, Jason. Who am I missing?
But as I understand it, we'll go ahead and do these things you're talking about.
I'll keep going.
Yeah. Well,
The
I mean,
exterior of the building.
yeah, well, we've got the EFS money from our T-Mobile stuff, so we need to use it. We've got
Sarah.
the door from Series E, we need to do that, so I think.
Oh, Justin Henniger.
Yep.
Sorry,
He's on
sorry,
the-
Justin. He's at the sheriff's office.
He just got
Henniger?
Yep.
Yep.
And his wife works for DHS.
Very good. Sounds good.
Plug in the good word.
All right,
Is there a meeting date? Do we show up?
It'd be the second November and second Tuesday in November.
I can send it to you.
Second.
Yeah, it'd be a good idea to come to that meeting, actually.
okay.
The
Meeting
14th,
signs?
November 14th.
Oh, no, don't pick it.
Be positive,
Well, yeah, that,
like cheerleading signs.
yeah, that's
Leading
that'd be
signs.
fine. You could do
November
that.
14th, at what time? 6?
6 o'clock in this room.
All right.
Yes, like-
Okay.
All right, item 11, consideration and discussion regarding grant opportunities. I talked about the Sarkeys grant last month, but the Sarkeys actually has to go through library board,
Friends.
trust, friends. I thought it had to go through the,
No, because it's a 501c3, and that's all they
Oh.
take.
okay, but I can get with them and we can work on that. But that's the next project we want to work towards. And I think we go ahead and try for it and see what happens.
Give me another 50, we can do something with it.
Yeah.
Spend all the money somebody would give us.
Do you think that I should choose what project phase to work on as far as like, do you want to do it specifically for framing materials? Do you want to do it specifically for?
I'd say framing and insulation,
Okay.
because early in the process, we could do spray foam on that whole roof.
Oh, yeah.
If we frame the exterior walls, we could foam 3 inches thick, and we still have cavity to run conduit and wire.
Okay. All right, I'll put that as the phase.
That foam's gonna be 25 grand.
But that's the next one I saw on my stuff. Once we get finished with EFS, I would like to try again at another T-Mobile. Because Scott that day was very adamant that
You would
we
again.
try for something else.
Awesome.
And I told him I didn't want to do that till we used what they've sent us the first time through. So we'll get Sarkis going and try to get it all ready to be submitted by December.
And you gave me EFA samples a while back, and I have no earthly idea where they are. So
Are
if
you sure I didn't end back up with them?
I don't know, if you stumble across some, bring them to the next meeting, because if we get pricing and we want to take action, we need to pick colors and textures.
Oh, okay.
I did bring. I don't know if I.
We're not on that agenda item, but
Okay. Number 12, new business, and there is none. Item 13, adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
somebody's got to be brave one of these days and bring up new business.
I'm not going.
See what-
It has to be something that came up out of
You
nowhere
do
in the
it.
last 24 hours.
I'm not there.
That's the rule.
All right, are we to stop trying to?
I made a motion. I made a motion.
Okay.
Before anyone runs away. Who's my second?
I thought Brian did.
Oh, Brian. Oh, okay. I'm so sorry. I didn't hear you.
Sorry.
All right, then Melissa, or no, Valerie?
Yes.
Brian?
Yep.
Linda?
Yes.
Charlotte?
Yes.
And Melissa. I looked at you.
All right. Adjourned at
Boys' room.
Yeah.
58.
I love to be on everybody's notes as offering to adjourn.